right. Welcome, everyone. Happy
Hello, hello,
Tuesday.
hello. Yes, it's a great Tuesday here in New Jersey.
Yes, I'm in New Jersey too, Robin.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. See, I could
Yeah,
have come down there. I could have taken a school trip and had a
I'm in a
day
very
off.
small room. This is how big my room is right now. So we would be
Ah,
snuggled very close in this very small room.
nice. Oh, but I'm glad you're in Jersey. See, the right place
Yeah,
to be. Hello,
that's right.
everybody. It's so good to see you. It's so funny. What is this? It's October. So we did see you in September, I think. I
Yeah.
tell you. This season is going so quickly. The gigs are on top of each other, which is a great thing, but I mean on top of each other. And so we're very busy. Great thing, but it's almost like we're busy before we're ready to be busy. So I've had a
Yep,
lot of days
absolutely.
where I'm on a gig and I'm like, wow, I didn't eat yet today because I haven't yet got my, that rhythm you have to get when you have a gig at that strange hour and how you have to do your food. So.
Absolutely. That's the story of my life, Robin. Always, always. So what kind of gigs are you doing right now, Robin?
Well, on Sunday, I did a wedding at the Plaza Hotel in the Oak Room. That when you look up the Oak Room, it says hasn't been open since 2011. And you literally, there's a loading dock. Thank goodness there's a fire hydrant because there's usually you can park and like go in that way. It was my first time there with the mean security guard. And you go in, and it really looks like a place where they kill people. It just was dark and all wood and a little dank, and it was crazy. But you know what? It's weddings where when we talk about improvisation and all the things that Kirsten is going to help us with today, weddings is where if you were to say, well, when did you start improvising? I'm like, maybe when the bride was like 3 hours late and you were tired of playing your rep and you just needed something to play because you had to play and look. And so it became all of a sudden that play and look type of thing. So it was without any rhyme or reason, but a really strange thing occurs to you, and that is that either people aren't really listening or the sound of the harp so enthralls you, it doesn't really, when you're just kind of noodling, it doesn't sound bad. And then, but it sounds bad to you. You're like, oh, I don't like that note. So ultimately, as you're noodling, you start noodling around the chords and the things that sound better to you. And guess what? Voila. You're improvising while you wait for the bride, or you're going back to your 9-year-old little fountain. And my husband's like, oh, Lord, she's playing Little Fountain. The
Little
bride is
fountain
late.
again.
The bride is
Hey.
late. How about you, Christina?
So I learned how to improvise when I was playing at the Biltmore Hotel every Saturday for afternoon tea. And when you're doing that once a week, you get kind of tired of playing the same thing over and over again. And then, just trying to expand upon my repertoire. And then last year, I played for an event on campus. It was a suicide awareness event, and it was in the middle of campus. I had no idea where it was when I agreed to do it. So I had to wheel my harp all the way like half mile into campus. Did my chair, my bench, and my amp the first trip, and then I took my harp the second trip. I had 2 hours to play, and I got out there with my harp and realized I didn't bring my music stand. So I had to improvise for 2 hours. And you make it work. You figure out a way to do it. And improvising has been one of the most beautiful and exciting parts of my playing since I left school. I was never taught how to improvise, and I think that it's something that's really uncomfortable for a lot of us, especially those of us that are classically trained.
Paper trains.
Classically trained, yeah, paper trained.
That's it. Well,
Hmm.
for me, all of a sudden chord symbols become your best friend. Any music that has a chord symbol, and I always tell my kids, listen, play it through once and then just play the chords. Oh, and I know, yes, music theory and all that stuff is going to be very, very important to you. But in the beginning, when you are just looking at music and you've played this song 12 times and your teacher told you don't go out there because you only knew one thing, you literally can play the chord symbols. The song is still resonating for people, and maybe you'll play the chord symbols with chords. Maybe you'll then arpeggiate them. You start to
Hmm.
look around that, and that will give you your center. And people are like, well, but I don't know theory. Yes. So it says C chord, middle finger, skip a note, skip a note. There you go. If it's
You
the
got
wrong
it.
chord, if it's the wrong chord, you will hear it. You will hear it. So that's
And
something.
there are no wrong notes in improvisation. They're all just notes. There's no such thing as wrong notes because there's nothing telling you what's right and wrong. It might sound a little wrong to your ears, but that doesn't mean it sounds wrong to somebody listening or that it is wrong at all. It's just about
My
experimenting and exploring.
my teacher said if it's wrong, play it twice. And I will
Gosh.
tell you, I am that fanatic with getting that glissando in the right key and making sure I have that glissando in the right key. And I play with a lot of other instrumentalists. And so we're trying to get the Kiss glissando together for the wedding and all of this. And I'm like, ugh, but we are in 30 million different keys. It wasn't working smoothly. And so I did a gliss just in the scale, just no double notes, just in the scale. And she was like, well, that's beautiful. And I was like, no, it's not. But wait a minute. If she thinks it is,
Mhm.
that means a good portion of people think it is too. So I think part of improvising is also not taking yourself so seriously.
Yeah,
So Miss
definitely.
Christina, you've got a trivia for us, yes?
I do have trivia for us today. So obviously MJ's not with us today. She and her wonderful husband David are out in California visiting with family. So our trivia question for this week, it's a bit of a tough one, but I think someone might get it. So our question is, one harp soloist has won the Grammy Awards. Who are they and when did they win? One harpist in history. Who are they and when did they win the
Ooh,
Grammy Award?
she put the win on it, y'all.
Yeah,
Woo-hoo!
well, I mean,
There you go. So TikTok, while you're trying to think about that or trying to type as fast as you can, let me tell you, we are so excited to have Kirsten here with us today. And you all know that I'm always the girl that says, listen, you want a bio, read it yourself. The bio is there, read it. And it's not because I don't like bios, but so many are so extensive and there's so many things. And I like my own personal fun facts. So one of my fun facts is that if you are not subscribed to the Harp Column magazine, you need to, because then you would have seen that she was the cover girl. And it was a beautiful article on her titled Shadow, Light, and the Space in Between. And one quote in the she's talking about her new album, her new CD, and she says this album really explores our imperfection and the fact that as humans we are all imperfect. And I love that. It's like full stop. I love that quote. But let me tell you what I love about Kirsten, who, if I've met in person, it's like from far away across the table. Her arrangements are just fantastic. If you want to play, if you're a pop player and you're a gig player and all of a sudden you're like, what? They want Shallow? They want Wicked Games? Oh my gosh, they want Queen's The Love of My Life. She's got arrangements that when you're playing them, you feel like you're not missing any notes, but they fall into your fingers so easily. Now, easily with a grain of salt, probably intermediate advanced, but to all my beginners, I say play the top note, play the bottom note, and you've got an arrangement, and it'll catch up to herself. But I really, really love her arrangements. And then she started doing solos. She started writing pieces right out of her head. And I think one of the greatest compliment I can give her without her knowing is I was playing one of her songs, and a clarinetist said to me, oh my gosh, that third song that you played, can you tell me the name of it? Can you tell me what it is? Because her music is just very, what's the word? Evocative. It's just very
yeah, evocative.
ethereal, right? It just really puts you in a place. And so check out her music, check out her solo pieces. I think actually are very much more user friendly. And yes, did I turn off my phone? No, when somebody's trying to get into the Zoom, and I'll have to get back to them as soon as we say Kirsten. And yay, because I keep saying ear, 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 I can get it right. And now you all know this is Kirsten. Come on and teach us something today. There she is.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Robin, for that wonderful intro. I had a little, what do I want to say? I was a little teary-eyed hearing you say those words. That was very sweet. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me.
No,
No,
the
the
absolute
absolute
truth.
truth. Can I play the trivia because I know the answer? I That's one of the random facts that I actually know. But anyway, thank you all for being here. This is about improv, and I have to say, Fearless Improv Tricks and Treats for Harpists was a very scary title for me to absorb and think about as I was preparing for this today, because I don't think of myself as an improviser. And I'm not a jazz musician. I don't take solos during sets. And I thought, gosh, what do I have to say about improvisation? But I realized that actually we all do a little bit of improv whether we know it or not. And Robin made a very good point about weddings, which I'll get to at a certain point because I have something to say about that in a piece that I use for that exact purpose that I'll show you how I improvise around. But we're going to talk about the common fears and why they're really normal to feel fearful about. And the first is I'm classically trained. Yes, I have 2 degrees from Indiana University, and all I studied was classical music while I was there. So, what do I know about jazz or improv or anything above classical music? Well, the bottom line is your classical training is actually the ideal foundation for improvisation because you already understand harmony, voice leading, and phrasing. And these are the building blocks of spontaneous music making. So I think of improv not as abandoning structure, but as kind of reordering what you already know. And I think that we can use these classical cadences, whether they're something that you know from another piece or something that you're just conjuring out of your own mind, and they can serve as a structural guide for you as you go forward with this new thing that you're going to attempt. So think of improv as a conversation with a good friend that's unscripted. And that is the way that I would like to introduce you to the beginning of this Zoom. So it sounds random, but how do you know that it's random? And is it random? How do you choose what you're going to play? Improvisation is sounds random, I think, when we don't recognize that there's patterns underneath them. And patterns to me are very important in improv because the trick to it, to me, is to think of it more motivically instead of melodically. So I'm building small, repeatable ideas that can be sequenced, inverted, or varied rhythmically. So for us, we could take a 3 or 4 note cell that works really beautifully, and it draws from just a motivic development and sequence. So for instance, I played a gig on Friday at Tiffany and Company on Fifth Avenue in New York. And they very specifically asked me not to take breaks between the pieces. So, guess what? I had to figure out how to go seamlessly from one piece to the next, which, for the first 3 songs was pretty easy because I have a couple songs that I usually play at the top of every set, and I know them by memory, and I can play them easily one to the next because they're all in the same key. But then you get into the, discovery of, oh, I have to change I don't use a foot pedal, by the way, for my iPad. I think we have enough to do with our feet, so I don't use a foot pedal, but I tap with my finger, and I have it choreographed so that I can do that, and I've never missed a page, so it works for me personally. But I realized that I only had one hand to be able to noodle between pieces while I was tapping to the next song, or maybe skipping a song because I didn't really want to play it. So what I started doing was just, coming out of, let's say, Time After Time, which is in C major. You have so now you have an octave of a C that you can keep going with, and maybe put in the fifth with a G. So now I have a 3-note, really 2 notes because you're playing 2 of the same notes, but 3 notes of a sequence that you can sequence around like this, or you can invert it, or you can start varying it rhythmically. Now add the fourth in. And now I can go around this as many times as I want to while I'm searching for my next piece. And I've just decided to play something in E flat major. So now I have to modulate. Turn it minor. And I'm just noodling on. And there you are in E flat major. So there's lots of ways that you can, thank you, that you can mess around with just a 3 or 4 note pattern and make it into something that actually can sound like a little piece in a sense, especially when you can add the left hand back in like I just did with the octaves. So if I'm taking this, you can walk up an octave with it like this, and then I'm just working with 7th chords and dominant chords, and working between those two, you can really find a lot of adventurous and new ways to use the full scope of the harp, which by the way sounds really impressive to the average ear, and start to actually create something that could be a full interlude, literally, between pieces, or it could just be a transition to get you from one piece to the next. So that's what I mean by things not sounding random, but rather recognizing where the pattern might be within a particular group of notes that you choose to play. So the next thing that we want to talk about is that maybe not everybody feels creative. I know that when I first started composing, oh my goodness, I won't even tell you how many pieces I threw in the trash can and just said, this is not okay. This is not good enough. Nobody's going to want to listen to this or play this. But the thing is, the more that you are creative, the more it's a muscle. And it's a muscle that you need to use on a regular basis in order for it to feel comfortable and for you to feel confident doing it. So you might just not be in touch with it yet. It might be something that you need to come into and become comfortable with. But I think of it as play, as Robin said, rather than some sort of invention. Okay, so this can just be something that you do for yourself and find some joy in. So you can start by exploring. We have these beautiful colors that we can make out of this instrument. We have harmonics, we have muffles, we have wire sweeps, we have tapping on the sounding board. There's all these special effects that you can include. I'm not saying that necessarily every improv should have that, because it's not necessarily, it's not necessarily appropriate to have a sweeping wires during a wedding interlude or something. But But harmonics are a beautiful asset to making something up, especially when you can do them in a sequence, or if they're actually replacing a bass octave or a bass pattern. So I really like to use them. I think I like them also to just add a different color in general. So these are things that I think you can think of. They're techniques that we all know in our classical training that we can use when we're actually trying to do improvisation. So as a beginner, you don't necessarily always feel like you have all the tools, right? But you don't necessarily need advanced facility to make something beautiful. So as I showed you, you can just use one hand, whether it's your left or your right. Probably it's going to be your right because your left is going to be doing something else. But you have all of the few strings can convey a complete landscape of musical emotions. And I think that focusing on one hand textures and using breath between gestures can also be really important. So one of the things that I always talk about with my own compositions is the use of space and the fact that space is beautiful. We as classical musicians are used to playing a lot of notes and fast, intricate patterns and things that are very virtuosic, right? But for me, it's about deconstructing what I might originally think of in a theme and finding which notes are really the important ones. So if I'm writing something that has, let's see, I might say, well, I don't really need the G in the bass clef now, or the left hand. Or I take out the D in the right hand. It's implied, and then maybe I go and cadence it that way. Or in a lot of ways, I like on my new album, one of the things that I decided to go for thematically were patterns like I just talked about. And you'll hear that there are patterns in the left hand specifically throughout a lot of the pieces. The title track starts out with this. And this is how I started composing it, was literally just going between the fifth and a third. And I was like, okay, how would this go? Now you hear all the space between the right hand. So you can see that the left hand has a constant pattern, but the right hand is playing very minimally. So this is something that you can also try to do, is write with minimalism or drone-based modal improvisation. So that could just be a fifth, so there are lots of ways that you can just make up little melodies with a very simple left-hand pattern that can be very beautiful and again serve as these interludes or noodling, as I will call them, between pieces or at weddings or at events. So it depends on what you're really wanting to do with it, but limiting your technique connects you to the voice of the harp, I think, a little bit. And I think the more simple that you make it, especially when you start, can be very appealing, and you'll actually feel like you're accomplishing something. So I did another piece very recently, and this is a single I just released for Halloween called Midnight Dreary, Poe inspired. And I started it again with a very simple left hand pattern, and it just went around the fifth and these descending thirds, and then I put a gliss at the start because why not? And it actually goes about like this. Etc., etc. But you can see how I like created this kind of eerie, haunting melody around a very simple, again, drony like bass pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes. I had to count them there. 6 notes. But I think these are wonderful ways of creating when you first start out. And of course, you can make them more complicated as you get more used to it. But I think these are the building blocks, as you might call them. So, one thing that I like to do at weddings when the bride hasn't showed up yet, my favorite song to play for that is "Only Time" by Enya. It's in E flat major. And oh my God, she's still not coming down the aisle. So I go around this again, and I'm now bored of playing this, so I'm going to improvise around it. Now I just used the so I'm actually using the theme of the song in a different in the fifth instead of the tonic, and just mirroring it as part of my improv. So as I go around, and it's just minor, major, you can use 2-5-1 is a great way to go about it too. So you would go, let's see, it would be well, let's see. Oh, here she comes. Okay, and there you go. You're back into your song again. Or you're modulating into whatever the bride's processional is. But I think if there's questions about how I'm doing this, I hope that you'll ask them when we get to the Q&A, because I think that it's really, you don't have to know a lot of theory to get around this. In fact, I'm terrible about explaining the actual theory behind it because I'm using my ear for most of it. So I work based on what I hear it going to, and then I like to take it a little bit out. So sometimes I'll throw in, I'll be in, let's see. And take it into something where I'm changing pedals to modulate it around. And you don't really need to have a lot of theory knowledge to do that, because we all know how our pedals work. And if you're not on a pedal harp, you have to do it on your lever harp, and you know where your levers go. So it's a lot more, obviously it's a lot easier on a pedal harp to be more harmonic with it and to modulate easier. But lever harps can do lots of things too. And I think these tools will all accomplish the same goal as long as you stick to a pattern that is either sequenced, inverted, or varied in rhythm, and then finding that you have some textures within it to work on your harmonic movement or your tone color or etc. Okay, so this is another thing that I like to do with pieces is make an intro for them. So there's no reason that you have to start the piece on the upper left corner of the music, okay? So in this case, I'm gonna start, let's see, put this back in C. Let's see. Now, I'm thinking of a piece here because I'm in D minor. And all of a sudden, you've deconstructed Sounds of Silence into something that's very, very cathartic, right? And it's unexpected, it's unique, but it's deconstructed. So you're making it into something that the audience doesn't really expect to hear, but then you start playing the melody and it's an aha moment for them. And I love doing this with pieces because I think it constantly, you can do almost anything that can be an intro to a piece. You can even, I mean, if you're working away from high register down to low. I like doing that a lot. Or starting down deep. And, I think the harp really sounds so resonant when it's in our fifth octave down, down here. And it's a great place to start. It can be just a rolling pattern like this where you have an ostinato happening, right? And then your left hand can take over. And you've never even changed into where the song actually modulates to. You're just keeping it in the tonic the entire time. And it can make for a very beautiful, as I said, unique way of changing up your songs. And I think it's also just a way of making it more interesting for us to play, because we keep playing, the same things in our gigs every single time, and oh gosh, they get boring after a while, right? And you have to constantly be adding new things to your repertoire, obviously. But this is a way that I think you can really take it to the next level and just play the same songs that you have in your repertoire, especially if you have a small set list, and make it into something that's much grander and much more unique and useful for you. So, okay, so let's just kind of go back to the beginning and talk about the tricks for getting started. Okay, limit your choices. So fewer notes equals more freedom, and it also sharpens your creativity when you limit the notes because you have to think a little bit more about building rhythmic or textural variations. And it teaches you the emotional colors of the intervals and the modes as well. So think small to begin. Then use patterns that you already know. Here's a good one. I like to think about this beautiful oh, everybody knows that, right? Little Debussy. So this is an amazing thing to dissect. It's just a seventh chord. And then it comes, takes a third back and forth, and then introduces the way it's going to resolve, right? Beautiful. But what if you decided to do it in D major, but stir it up and make it your own? There's lots of ways that you can use the classical composers that we know and love, but not exactly quote them and use them in a way that just makes it your own in a new key, in a different pattern, something that evokes. My dog is scratching at the door right now. I hope you guys can't hear that. He's like, I want in on this. Anyway, so these are just ways of creating. And when you're let's say you're not feeling like the creative juices are flowing really steadily and you need a little boost, take out a piece that you have on your music stand and take a little excerpt from it and see if you can deconstruct it and make it your own. So that's what I would do as far as, using patterns that you already know. And then let's talk about the rhythm again. Even a single note can be exciting if you change the rhythm. So it can be make up rhythms that go around a single note and explore syncopation and triplets and dynamics. And then you can always try a call and response, which is to play something simple and then answer it. So, my pedals are still in D major. Sorry about that. Right? So you have a call and answer. So my treats for you to try at home is to try to create a mood piece using just one chord. So you're going to pick a harmony and explore it through the texture, the register, the rhythm. And you can use, pedal changes if you want to subtly color the mood, if you want to go through a little modulation. But explore this mood piece with just one chord. Then the second thing I want you to try is to use your favorite holiday tune, since we have that coming up, and vary the rhythm, register, or mode. So you're going to take a familiar tune, Deck the Halls, whatever, shift it into a new context and a different mode, tempo, or rhythm. And this is so much fun to do, again, because we get really sick of playing Deck the Halls the same way. So make sure that you find a new way of playing it this season. And then the third thing and the last thing to share is to set a timer for 1 minute and improvise without stopping. So you're focusing on continuity here, not perfection. And the mistakes can possibly become new ideas, right? This is like a stream of consciousness. If you've ever done, morning writing, where you're not supposed to erase, or you write in pencil and you just stream whatever comes to mind first thought. That's what this is going to be. It's a stream of consciousness approach, and it's going to reveal your personal motives and foster a flow state. So I hope that these are things that have really given you some ideas and given you a basis for starting your own improv exploration and journey.
Let me
Let
tell
me
you
tell you
something.
something.
This
This
is
is
fantastic.
fantastic.
If
If
you do
you do
not
not
have,
have,
I hope
I
y'all
hope
don't
y'all
hear
don't
the
hear the
echo. Y'all
echo.
hear
Y'all
the
hear the
echo?
echo?
If you
If you
don't have
don't
the
have the
handout,
handout,
I
I
need you to
need you to
make
make
sure to
sure to
go
go
and
and
print it
print it
out.
out.
The
The
next thing
next
you
thing you
must
must
do
do
is when
is
this
when this
recording
recording
comes
comes
out,
out,
you need
you
to
need to
sit,
sit,
because I
because
didn't
I
see
didn't see
any of
any of
y'all
y'all
writing,
writing,
and you need
and
to
you need
take
to take
some
some
notes
notes
because you
because
know
you
I
know I
usually
usually
talk a
talk a
lot.
lot.
But I
But
saw
I
this
saw this
handout, so I
handout, so I
knew it
knew
was
it was
great.
great.
Take
Take
notes
notes
and
and
try all
try
of
all
these
of these
things.
things.
Remember when
Remember
she
when she
said
said
about weddings and she was playing a song but she only played the tiniest bit. Sometimes I think when you're waiting for the bride or for the moment or for the pastor to say okay, enough, you go too far into the song and then you can't keep looping, you can't do what she's talked about, and all of a sudden you've gotten the song to a part where when you stop it, everybody's like, oh, what was that? So the little bits was so good, and my favorite part of everything, I hope y'all remember or look back at the recording, is when she was telling us about chords and she was telling us about trying stuff. She was like, "Oh wait, oops." You saw her working. You saw her working. It's not some mystical, magical, oh, Kirsten is just so. No, you saw her working it. So you have to work it. And she's giving you all the tools to work it. So why don't y'all put some questions in the chat? Kirsten, thank you. This was so good. And let's see if anybody has any questions.
All right. So if you've got any questions, we can go ahead and put them in the chat. If we don't have any questions, I think Kirsten's going to play something for us.
Oh, I can play a little ditty.
Ooh, I
Oh,
love a little ditty.
somebody got the Grammy question. I saw it.
Yep. Oh, it looks like we have a question. June says, "What do you do to capture what you're creating so that you can work on it later?"
Huh. Um, you open your iPhone, presuming that you have one, and you open voice memos. And you download the voice memos app if you don't already have it, and then you play whatever it was that you just thought of. Because believe me, if you think you're going to remember what you just did an hour later, 10 minutes later, or an hour later, forget it. It's not going to happen. And that fleeting moment that you just had a brilliant idea for something is going to be gone. So be sure to get it down on a voice memo, or, if you are a paper and pencil kind of person, draw it out, make staff paper or print staff paper and write it out, and make sure that you jot it down. I think it's really good when you're first starting out too, to see your ideas on paper too, and to see visually what they look like. I know, as a composer, that I like to see what I've written right in front of me, and then I can actually see where a note doesn't work, or etc., right? So it's kind of nice to, I mean, I know we've gone to a really like tech central world, but I'm old school when it comes to some of this, and I think that it's nice to have see it on paper.
Excellent. So smart. And do you have any tips for modulating?
Well, yeah, I think for me, modulating, I'm not great about doing that circle of fifths pedal thing that we all are supposed to know. I can't, I don't do it. So
Same.
I'm just going to be really honest. It doesn't happen. So I try to find a common note between the key that I'm coming from and going to. So as you saw when I was going through the C major, I know that I can turn this into minor by making an E flat, right? So there's the minor. Then I can introduce, because I have the E flat, I can now introduce the B flat. And then the A flat can come right after that. So I think that really works in almost any key, is if you can find a common note, and it doesn't have to be the third, it could be the fifth, it could be any other note. And you can walk through, like, if you find the common note and you're not sure how it fits, play it as an octave back and forth until you figure out where it can go and what you can add to it to make it a modulation. But you do have to have, I think, a little bit of common basic theory knowledge to know where, and circle of fifths knowledge to know, what keys you can go to. But another trick too is to go to the minor, so the relative minor. So if you're in C major, you would go to A minor, right? And then you can go to F, right back to C, or you can go, right? So there's lots of ways that you can work in and out of keys just by using a common note.
Such a great answer. And I think probably one of our last questions is going to be, do you have any suggestions for finding a pulse while you're improvising?
Well, I think it depends on, if you're talking about improvising like in a wedding situation, I'm always trying to go with the pace of whatever the song is that I've come out of or am going into. So, for instance, if you're going from, um, let's say you're playing, well, you're playing only time, right? So, okay. And you've gotten yourself into, so I try to actually use the tempo of whatever the piece is that I'm going to for whatever it is that I'm improvising. Or, you can change if you're playing something a little fast and then you want to slow it down. I mean, those are all great ways of making it unique too, changing the tempo of what you're doing. But I think you have to read the room as to where you're doing this. If you're doing it in the comfort of your own home, do whatever you want. but if you're talking about going between two pieces, and especially in a situation where you're being paid to play a gig, you want to make sure that it's reasonable.
Great answers. Thank you so much, Kirsten, for all of your incredible
Excellent.
knowledge and information today. You were incredible. I know everyone really enjoyed this. There will be a replay on YouTube in just a couple days if anybody wants to watch again. Everybody should watch again. And tell us what you're going to play for us this afternoon.
I am just going to play the first piece that I always play on a set, which is Somewhere in Time.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Can they reach you, Kirsten?
Can they reach me? Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I mean you're here, and we're like, oh, it's Kirsten, and she was just on the cover, and she was here, and she was there, and I just want to know if people can email you, if you do coaching,
Absolutely.
if you do any of these
I'm gonna
things.
message
Someone might
everyone
want a
right now.
one-on-one. There
I'm
you go.
I'm messaging right now. This is my email, and let's see.
So everybody grab that, because the one thing I have found with all the harpists and any of the harpists that I've met, that they are exactly that. You can reach out to them, you can ask them these questions, you can pay them for a coaching session, because they travel all over the world and work at the craziest time zones, and so everyone, really, just if it's something that you heard, something that resonated, something that you want. And I promise you really need to look at her arrangements, because they have gotten me through many of gigs and concerts with the beautiful music she has written. So
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kirsten. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your month. We'll see you next time.
Bye.